On this day in 1972, Danny McGrain suffered a fractured skull during a league match against Falkirk at Brockville. 21-year-old Danny McGrain was well on his way to establishing himself as Celtic's first-choice right-back in March 1972 and had played in both legs of the European Cup quarter-final against Hospitalization, which set up a semi-final meeting with Inter Milan. Celtic were closing in on a 7th consecutive league championship, 3 points ahead of second-placed Aberdeen with a game in hand, and after Jim Brogan and Jimmy Johnston had been injured in the second leg against Hospitalization, it was a young and inexperienced Celtic team that took the field at Brockville. Watched by Inter manager Gianni Invernizzi, they lined up Williams, McGrain, Quinn, Hay, McNeil, Connolly, Davidson, Dalglish, Deans, Callahan, Wilson, sub Macari. After kick-off was held up for 10 minutes to allow in hundreds of fans still queuing up to gain entrance, Celtic were straight into attack and Dixie Deans headed just wide from a Kenny Dalglish free kick on 5 minutes. Just a minute later, Danny McGrain was injured in a sickening clash of heads with Falkirk left winger Doug Sumner. The seriousness of the injury was not immediately apparent, with the Evening Times match report that day stating simply, "McGrain and Sumner went down after a clash of heads. Both were okay after treatment." Alan Heron reported in the Sunday Mail on the 26th of March 1972. Celtic right-back Danny McGrain was injured in a head collision with Doug Sumner after only 6 minutes. He had treatment from trainers Mochan and Rooney on and off the field before resuming 4 minutes later. He played out the first half before being replaced by Lou Macari at half-time. It's incredible to think McGrain managed over half an hour of football with a fractured skull, and it was only in the dressing room at half-time he felt unwell. He later remembered it must have been a very cold day because substitute Lou Macari spent the interval telling him he'd be fine for the second half. But Raymond Jacobs in the Glasgow Herald reported on the 27th of March 1972. Danny McGrain, Celtic's right-back, suffered a fracture of between 3 and 4 inches on the right side of his skull in a head-to-head collision with Falkirk's left winger, Doug Sumner. McGrain was taken to the intensive care unit at Falkirk Royal Infirmary for observation, and yesterday his condition was reported by Sean Fallon, Celtic's assistant manager, as slightly improved. Having missed several good chances in the first half, and seen a Vic Davidson goal disallowed for obstruction by the young striker in the build-up, the second half was a much scrappier affair, with Falkirk missing chances of their own. Alan Heron reported, "In the second half, Ferguson scooped a hogging cross over the bar, Sumner belted a right foot shot 2 feet wide with Williams beaten, and Ian Harley belted a shot wildly past when under no pressure." Not that Celtic could gloat. Deans and Wilson had a number of solid chances, but their finishing was just too bad to be true. Just when it looked as though relegation threatened Falkirk had secured an unexpected and vital point, Celtic scored the winner 4 minutes from time. Alan Heron wrote, "In stepped the most elegant player on the field, George Connolly. From the left side of the field, he clipped the ball perfectly to the head of little Lou Macari in the Brockville box. The ball broke to Deans, who smartly chipped it to the far post. George Gibson jumped too early and missed. Paul Wilson was the kid with the old head as he held the ball on the touchline, then touched it back to another who hasn't been shaving for long, namely Vic Davidson. Keeper Ali Donaldson hadn't a chance with the 10-yard shot, which rose no more than 6 inches on its way to the net." The result kept Celtic 3 points ahead of Aberdeen, who had played 2 games more, and Heron concluded his report. "Steen must be delighted at the way Wilson and Davidson linked up in the 86th minute to give him a win and make the league championship no more than a mere formality." Danny McGrain's injury cast a pall over the win and added to Celtic's growing injury list ahead of the semi-final against Inter. Raymond Jacobs wrote, "This serious injury is a setback not only to the club, both in the short and long term, but is a harsh misfortune to the player who had been waiting for the chance to establish himself permanently in the senior side. McGrain showed the determination and resilience that would become his hallmark when he made a remarkable recovery, returning to the first team in the pre-season Drybrough Cup tournament against Aberdeen just 5 months later. A fractured skull wasn't going to stop him becoming the best fullback in the world.